Jim Duggan, even like people would just, respond to him, and he really stood out.
Yeah, he was super over it. And it's fun, like looking back, it's like, he wasn't really that great or this or that, but he was super over with the crowd. There's kind of nothing you could really say about it. That's why he was on TV so much. Do we have Brett? Do we have
Oh,
Mr.
we
GCW?
we
Yes.
got him.
Yes, he is here. Nice.
Hey, Brad, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. We just were talking about Furface, given our WWE Vault obsessions.
Furface?
Yes, the this just came out. I'm not sure if you saw this. Brutus the Barber Beefcake had a couple years after his parasailing accident, they brought him back under a mask, but it was never on television. Tried out. One gimmick was called the Mariner, and the second was Furface. Neither looked anything alike, but he did the same thing. Not talked, ran out there, attacked the heel, and then ran back. But it only happened 7 or 8 times total, and that was the thing. So it was like a deep, deep cut.
Wow. Don't recall.
Oof, a lot of people don't. It was terrible. But why we have you here, let's talk a little game changer. What is going on? What's the latest on GC Dub?
Are we on our program, or are you?
Oh, we're on. We're on.
We're on. Okay.
Yep.
So the latest is we've got some big stuff coming up. It's a big summer for GCW. Well, this week, of course, is Backyard Wrestling, amongst other events. But Backyard Wrestling, of course, one of our all-time greatest successes for GCW has been the Backyard Wrestling franchise. But coming up, 2 really big ones after that. Next week is Dallas, and it's going to be our biggest show that we've ever done in Dallas. Biggest show we've done. Biggest show we've ever done in Dallas, and our biggest show since Hammerstein Ballroom, for sure. It's going to be huge. Going to be a really big show. I think we're going to be sold out at Gillies. It's on track to sell out, which is good and big. So I'm excited about that. And then, of course, the week after, we're in Coney Island at the ballpark. So this is and then we go to Japan. So it's a pretty big stretch for GCW here in July.
I love we were meeting live. You're talking about before. I love the idea of going to the ballpark. You're surprised, more wrestling promotions don't do it, because they used to do it all the time. Like TNA used to do it all the time. I love that the ballpark and wrestling. It's like a great combination.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's a cool vibe for sure. I think every situation is different with the ballparks these days, and certain venues aren't as affordable as they used to be, or as amenable as they were. Is with everything in entertainment these days. So this is a serious endeavor for us to be going there. It's not a walk in the park, so to speak. Pardon the pun, but yeah, it's going to be fun. It's a good vibe. Coney Island's very cool. There's not a much better spot you can be on a Saturday night in July in the summer in New York City. So I'm very fired up for it.
Yeah, that should be fun. That's very, very cool. How about SummerSlam weekend? What's going on SummerSlam weekend?
Yeah, SummerSlam weekend, we got some stuff brewing. It feels like we really haven't even started to scratch the surface on what we're going to be doing yet. Of course, everything's announced, but we have so much going on before then that it's like it's almost overshadowed right now. But no, we've got our own little weekend of events at the Williams Center in Rutherford, New Jersey, which is 8 or 9 minutes away from MetLife Stadium. And it's a great place, very accessible by public transportation as well. So I think it's a really good spot for us. It should be a huge weekend for wrestling. So as always, I'm happy to be in the middle of it. Happy to have GCW be in the middle of it.
Oh man, the public transportation has gotten so much better over there over the years. Holy crap. I remember years ago at Giant Stadium, it was terrible. now it's so much better and easier, and there's so many more things going on over there that they've made it very accessible. So that's actually in Rutherford, literally, it's right there. I mean,
Yep.
hop, skip, and a jump. I mean, it's literally right next door, so it's super close.
Mm-hmm.
Also, besides SummerSlam, what about Vegas? What about the Collective? Or is
Oh
the
my
plans in
God.
place, or is that something you're not even thinking about yet as far as Vegas?
Well, I don't want to think about it, but I don't have a choice. No, of course, I've had calls all week about Las Vegas. Yeah, it's part of the game. I mean, if I'm not moving forward on it, then everybody else is going to, and they're going to beat us to it. So, it's our biggest weekend of the year, of course. So, yes, I'm thinking about it, talking to many people, a couple of different options on the table. And I'm just trying to figure out what the best option is. Last year was cool. There was good things about the Palms, and there was not so good things about the Palms. So we have a lot to think about.
Do you think it's good or bad you running the same area again 1 year after? Like, is it good because you learn some stuff, like you said about the Palms, and maybe you do something differently, or is it one of the things where maybe it's not so great to run?
I don't like it. I think it's negative for the. I mean, I think it's. Yeah, I mean, I think it's against the spirit of WrestleMania. The whole idea is that it's somewhere different every year. The Super Bowl doesn't go to the same town every year. Part of the fun for people and for the hardcore fans and the dedicated fans is, they make trips out of this every year. WrestleMania is like their pilgrimage, and it's where are we going next year? And now it's, Vegas 1 year was challenging for a lot of people. Now you're making them go back there again. And I think it's just I think it kind of I think it kind of dampers the the whole idea.
Hey, I agree. It's kind of crazy. It's like, oh, we're going to be in New Orleans, and then, oh, by the way, we got more money to go to Vegas, so we're going to do Vegas again. I know, just crazy by WWE to do that.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I mean, that's so unprecedented. You go out of your way to make a deal, announce it. I mean, people already made travel plans. People already booked stuff. And then, first of all, how did they even get away with that? Isn't there contracts that are like locked in, like with lots of money on the line? Like, not only that, but I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, they don't give a fuck. But they don't care. But I don't know. It just seems like not a great look for a corporate entity to do that, right?
Terrible look, especially since The Rock was, getting drunk, saying he loves this about New Orleans and that about New Orleans. They're going to New Orleans next year. That was a really bad look. It just looks like greed, corporate greed. That's what it boils down to.
And I hate to pile on about it, but I'm not sure what anybody else could take from it. I do like Las Vegas. I like it a lot, and I'll always be excited for WrestleMania. It's just unprecedented. It's nothing we've ever seen before from WWE in the era of WrestleMania. So I don't know. Who knows? Who knows the real story? Maybe there's more. Maybe there's something we don't know about. That facilitated the move behind the scenes.
True. Hopefully we find out, but I don't think we ever will. How about Lavi? I know you're chomping at the bit, Lav. You want to talk about Effy?
Yeah, so we'll get to Effy in a second. I was making some more notes as we were going along. So I guess the question, Brett, is how far along were you with New Orleans? Were you speaking to venues? Did you put down any money yet? I think WrestleCon got screwed a little bit with already booking a venue. How far along had you been?
Yeah, we were in discussions, partly in conjunction with WrestleCon. We were talking to some of the same people. We had already done some scouting, and we had some site visits lined up, and had already started discussing numbers, and I mean, we were into the discussions for a venue. I mean, we were moving towards a contract, and it would have been great, but thank God we didn't get there, because we would be in big trouble right now. I don't want to speak for, I don't want to, speak out of line, but I know others were not so lucky as us to have not signed a contract yet. I know that there are others who did and are now stuck with a contract that they can't use and having to figure out how to get out of it. And that's, that sucks for them. And that's the other thing. It's like, I mean, I guess for as far as, WWE doesn't care because it's not their event, but there's these other relationships too, like, hotels and even fans. It's like, there's probably some people who book non-refundable rooms or flights and whatnot that are stuck now. It's just that it's a whole domino effect. But yeah, I mean, luckily for us, we hadn't signed anything, so we're clean at the moment.
Yeah, speaking of like venues and areas, so with Rutherford, New Jersey, I think what's cool is like sometimes the GCW graphic comes out and like it sort of tells you stuff that even hasn't been individually announced yet. So there was that Rutherford date, obviously WrestleMania weekend, and I was like, for sure you're going back to the mall. And Luis Perez, of course, of PW Ponderings, for the official business podcast of PW Ponderings, was like, no, it's going to be at this at the venue that you're going to be in, the Williams Center. Yeah. So like, had you considered, now it makes more sense because multiple shows, which doesn't necessarily lend itself to a mall environment, but had you considered going back to the mall? Like, how successful was the first?
Yeah, we were supposed to go back to American Dream. We had it locked down. We had the dates on hold, and we were just waiting for a contract. But we got edged out because and I don't know if this has been announced or anything. I'm not trying to break any news, but my understanding is that Fanatics is going to be doing their WWE installment there, or some form of it, either there or in the parking lot or within a certain proximity where we're boxed out. So, that's a much bigger deal than us. And I think there's some corporate entities at play as well. So, us as the little guy kind of gets pushed to the side on that one. And I get it. I don't like it, of course, but I get it. So Fanatics trumps us at the American Dream on SummerSlam weekend, but we will be back at the American Dream. I have another date, which will be revealing soon. So we'll be back, just not as soon as we would have liked.
So Lewis, I wasn't wrong exactly. No. Speaking about like partnerships and so on, it's great to see the ID program listed. So just in terms of technicalities, my speculation with it would be that like to stream on Triller, because of WWE's Netflix or whatever distribution, you can't write WWE ID. You just have to say ID. Is that why it's marketed like that?
No, not at all. It's more it's more from a legal standpoint. I guess there's a fine line over, us as GCW promoting an event that's called WWE. I guess, I don't know. There's legal departments that figure this stuff out and what's okay and what's not. And I guess maybe they just haven't figured out the appropriate way to do it. But, they just don't want it. They don't, we're the promoter of the event. So they don't want us to directly promote a WWE event, which is what it would look like to the casual fan. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my understanding. It's, we can use the WWE ID logo, on match graphics and things of that nature, but they just don't want us to specifically refer to it as a WWE event.
Got it. So speaking of streaming on Triller, Triller's in the news. I'm kind of obsessed with their stock price. Yeah, as we're recording this, yesterday it was down 18%. Today it was
What's
it
it
was up
at? Like 20 cents?
like 71 cents. It was up 18%, then down 25%. So we're hearing a lot of things. But how is the relationship with Triller, and how does that compare to the last couple of years?
Well, our relationship on a day-to-day basis is still strong. All our people, we still work with all the same people. And, from an operations standpoint, everything is still seamless and working smoothly. There's other elements that aren't necessarily as smooth as we would like them and that others might like them, but they're still a good partner. I mean, in terms of as broadcast partners, they remain, the app remains strong. Their delivery to fans, as far as from a fan standpoint, nothing's affected. The fans are continuing to get everything that they paid for, and it's all seamless and still a great deal for the fans. So, everything's still cool. I mean, they're as good as they could be given the circumstances,
Sure. So speaking about alliances, GCW has always been good about sort of especially with Bloodsport, right? Like sometimes you've had talent from all over.
Was that the end of your Triller comments or discussions?
Oh yeah, sorry, that was Triller, but I'd love any other color you have on
Triller.
What
you were saying that you've heard things or whatnot. I'm just curious what kinds of things that you're hearing or what you think is going on.
Yeah, so let me not dance around the subject. Appreciate the opportunity. Promotions have said that they were not paid by Triller. Are they up to date in paying you with your contracts with them?
Well, I don't think. I don't think it's appropriate for me to discuss exactly where we're at, but of course, I'm aware that there's been delays with other people, and there's been delays with us at certain times in the past. But I think, and it's hard for the just the casual observer to kind of understand the way the Triller business works and how there's different wings in the Triller universe. There's Triller TV, which is formerly the Fight TV side, and they do one thing, and then there's a whole other side of the Triller umbrella, which is a whole other thing, and they're sharing resources. A majority of the revenue comes from one side, but it's being absorbed by the entire umbrella. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think for a while, Triller TV, as far as I understand, it's sort of it does sort of exist in its own universe, and whether it's profitable or not, it's hard to say. We're waiting on those quarterly financials. Hopefully, they're not delisted before doing so. But I feel like the strain though comes from the parent just being in terms of what's been reported or speculated on, just cash poor, that there's not tremendous amount of money on hand.
That's public. That's all public knowledge. I mean, we see the numbers that are public, but just as somebody who's been with Fight for many years, before and after the Triller acquisition, from what I can gather and from the people I talk to, and I don't have any real life insider. I'm not in the meetings here that are going on way above my level, but everybody seems confident that this portion of the business is still strong. That whether the parent company survives this current, I guess choppy waters, whether they make it through that or not, everybody seems to be pretty confident that the Triller TV side will continue in one form or another. And I mean, you can read into that. I mean, I don't think when a company goes through what Triller's going through, right? They run out of money, and then there's people who, there's creditors. What ends up happening? A lot of times, assets get sold off, right? And I think Triller does have some assets. So, it looks like bare knuckle. Just in reading, if you just Google Triller, what seem to be the assets for Triller? Bare knuckle, Triller TV. Those seem to be the portions of Triller which have some life in them. So, I don't see a scenario where Triller TV would just shut down tomorrow, if the parent company has to cease operating,
Yeah.
So I think anybody, any content producers that are, with Triller and who, are frustrated with the current situation, I would say, and again, I'm just saying this as, a longtime member of the team, I would say, hang in there. This side of the business appears to be strong. And I think, at some point something's got to give. And I think something's going to give in the right direction, I think.
As someone
what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it could last, much longer based on what we're hearing with the money on hand, so that things have to move along. We speculate a lot on the show. I think obviously a natural acquisition would be like a DAZN, just because they do so much similar work. Or
what's their money situation like? Are they publicly traded?
They're not publicly traded, as far as I understand, but the ownership, I think it's an individual who's like a billionaire, so multiple billionaires. So it's all in that way. But they seem to be, very aggressive, in terms of their, acquisition. But I feel like more growth like outside of the U.S. But I had also speculated on like cyber agent, who's sort of like the sleeping giant of like pro wrestling in a way. But then I found some public information which was nicely reported on, that they've that part they've lost a lot of money on the wrestling side. So you have that, or like I don't think like a Bushi Road would be in the position to do it. So you never know. Like it could be people that are just seeing the value of this and financially, and they're fans of it, right? Like private equity people or something like that, and they just take it and just run with it. Or it goes away and it goes back to a model. And we talked about this together before this deal was announced, that you had been looking into GCW sort of being a standalone service, and like what would that infrastructure look like, and some like a do-it-yourself type of, obviously with support in the infrastructure. So we might just see the pro wrestling landscape sort of fall back to that, which for buzzworthy promotions that can work, but for others that are attaching themselves to bigger brands, that would be harder to to survive, or at least thrive.
Interesting.
Len Blavinik owns DAZN. He is worth $26.5 billion. He's the 75th richest person in the world.
I recognize that name. Where does he come from?
It's called Access Industries. It's his parent company. It's a global investment company, and he's the boss, if you will. He's the owner.
Interesting. Okay.
But they said he invested, as of this year, $827 million into DAZN itself. So he's put money into it. No doubt
so it sounds like he remains confident.
Yes.
So to kind of a couple of questions, in regards to Triller, sort of like get a little bit more insight. The way things are today, however they are today, and we're acknowledging that they'll change. If they are the way they are today, in 6 months, do you feel that that's sustainable for you and your business, or you just have to go a different way or do something in a different way?
I don't know. It's hard to answer that question. I mean, I am team Triller. I'm a ride or die. I'm not afraid to say that. I mean, I'm also not an idiot. Of course, we don't, from a literal standpoint, and nobody can afford to I mean, this is a business, and we have to operate it as a business. But also, I know that Triller values what we bring. I know where we are on the totem pole, and I know that I think that they would they currently do, and I think they will continue to make sure that they do what they need to do to keep us on the team. I think they do value us, and they know what we bring to their catalog, and I mean, I have not yet felt like, hey, I have to do something. They've always, they've been honest and upfront with me, where I know what's going on and I know what's coming and when it's coming, where we can make it work.
Yeah. So last question on Triller, just to get a sort of like a final temperature. I know that you had been like sort of making referrals at a certain point, just, like buzzworthy promotions that it feels like, okay, they would fit well here and so on. Like if, a company said to you, somebody that you're friends with or have worked with, like, hey, I'm looking for new distribution. Like, should I go to Triller? Would you say sort of like, come on aboard, maybe take a look at things? Like, how would you guide them?
Yeah, I would guide them. I would still guide them to Triller. I think that, the Triller TV subscriber base, is, multiple times over what any other wrestling platform has. They have a substantial subscriber base. I've seen, I feel like, listen, there's nobody's getting rich off of streaming and wrestling on any of these platforms unless you're at the top of the food chain. Okay, nobody's getting rich doing it, and at a certain point, I guess you got to figure what's worth more. Would it be worth more to get a couple extra cents going on this platform, or is it better to reach 1,000 more people every time you do a show? I think right now Triller is still, I think that Triller TV is still, in my mind, it's the premier platform for indie wrestling. It's the best app. It's again, from a fan standpoint, I think it's still the place to be. And so, unless somebody is getting a better offer elsewhere, if you have two of the same offer, Triller, company A is Triller and company B is whatever, I would say come to the Triller side.
Thank you. So I think that gives us very good understanding of Triller. So one of the other elements of GCW's business I've kind of been obsessive about in terms of like fantasy booking, basically since September, is this Juggalo feud. Collaboration and feud and so on. And it's interesting when you go to Juggalo's various platforms, really the 4 shows that they have on the books are all in collaboration with GCW, whether you're doing the ticket sales on Eventbrite or they're doing something in Majestic Theater and they're handling it. And certainly the Gathering show where tickets are on sale for the general event, but not yet the wrestling shows. One of the things I've been surprised with, and I'd imagine it's kind of a slow burn, is I haven't seen it really translate sort of to a broader area of interest. And maybe there's has to be an angle that really heats it up. It seems like there's a little bit of things simmering, and Brett, we want you to be safe and everything like that, but I think it kind of needs an angle where like the Juggalos get you in the ring and
Sure.
whatever it may be, as you'd imagine it, or you guys get Violent J in the ring, like without giving things away. Is this like simmering to a boil at the Gathering, or the Gathering is sort of like where things really kick off and you kind of run with that?
Well, I think there's some stuff coming up before then where we'll see some movement, and some tensions escalated. There is a big show July 17th in Detroit. It's the Showcase Showdown. with JCW and GCW co-promoted show at the Majestic Theater in Detroit. So, Detroit is Juggalo home turf and ICP home turf. So I think that'll be an interesting show to keep an eye on. And then there is the Rutherford weekend where JCW will have a show on our turf as part of our weekend offering there, SummerSlam weekend. And I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for things to pick up before we get to the gathering.
Lavi, fantasy booking. What are you doing? You're trying to prognosticate.
Yeah, let's not give any ideas. Jeez.
Yeah.
I know.
Why has it got to be me?
I'm sorry, Brandon. It keeps landing up with you.
I'm not an on-screen character.
I know.
Go after Effy or something like everybody else does.
Well, to me, it's always like, as we've talked about in the show, like, so obviously 3 steps removed, but that time that you got in the cage for CZW, I felt like that, like, was like the wind of momentum, like, shifted to GCW, and then you were sort of off and running. So like sort of like as the face of things, but obviously people that know will decide. So with this Brooklyn Cyclones thing, Maimonides Park, the big summer show, obviously the same weekend as Slammiversary. So I was actually thinking like maybe you guys should kind of, you have some talents that cross over, kind of share co-promotion, but they just announced a softball fundraiser the same time as your show. But like, how do you feel like in terms of Maimonides Park support and how ticket sales are going so far?
Ticket sales are okay. The park has been, I would say that they've been supportive. We just had GCW night at the stadium this past week. Yeah, I would say that they've been supportive. There's limits to what they can do and what they can't do, in terms of like during Cyclones games and whatnot. But no, they've been pretty cool. And yeah, I think we're coming into the stretch run, so we'll see. I expect a lot of walk up for this event. I think there'll be a lot of day of decision making and people on the boardwalk hearing about the wrestling show. So I think it's too early to tell exactly where we're going to end up, but I remain optimistic.
Yeah, and if there wasn't the July 4th show in the backyard, and if it's in New Jersey, by the way, Brett, if you have an extra ticket, John might want to get out there.
Oh, of course.
That's just my John didn't ask me to say that. It's just my
Where's John? Where's John in New Jersey?
Asbury Park.
No kidding.
Yes.
Are you going to come to the JCW show on Sunday?
I was actually thinking about it, but it just depends on the kids. They usually have me everywhere on the weekends, but possibly yes.
All right. Well, I'd be happy to host you as my guest at the 4th of July. Right. So if you really want to go, send me a text message when this is over, and I'll shoot you some information.
Okay. Awesome.
Nice. So, I mean, my idea was that like July 4th, right? You have the Nathan's hot dog, like it's going to be thousands of people. It might be a good place to flyer, but there's only so many places everyone can be. Just quickly wrapping up the baseball part, without getting too into business, is this sort of like a straight booking, or can we rent the venue and what can we do together? Or is this like a collaboration with the ballpark?
I would not call it a. It's not a collaboration. This is this is us. We went to them and asked if we could do a show there. Could it become a collaboration at some point or in the future? I certainly think so. I think if it goes well and there's and there's a good turnout and good feedback from the community, I don't see why it couldn't advance further. I think wrestling, as you guys know, wrestling is a tricky thing, and not everybody loves the idea of wrestling until they see it, and see what it can, what it is and what it means. So, sorry. So I think, I think, yeah, I think it's, I think it's I think it's a we'll see situation,
Yeah, as the hour is getting late, I just want to give like one final question that's related before turning it over to John. Like, I think, well, I'll preface it a little bit. So I think GCW has done a really good job in a number of things, obviously, which but like sort of like finding a balance of like different brands. Obviously, the death match in New Jersey is very different from the mall or the baseball stadium, and sort of like finding that balance. But the malls and the baseball games and so on, like the family friendly, do you see like that sort of like as a growth area for GCW? And maybe there is a market for baseball stadiums and wrestling, and maybe it's sort of like moving into that market a little bit, sold shows or collaboration, and sort of like opening up like basically another vertical without getting too businessy, for GCW that sort of like gives a different sense of like stability and growth as compared to like.
I would love that, but I don't know if we're there yet. Again, it's like I'm saying, wrestling is so tricky as it is. And the one thing with, the one challenge for GCW is, we have this great track record of big, like, of great success in all these legitimate avenues and legitimate venues. And, also part of our history is also, outlaw stuff, and, family type entities or family friendly, organizations or whatever. A lot of the times when, if they're hearing about us or people are talking about us for the first time, what do? You go and you Google it, and what comes up, for every, great success that GCW's had, a sold out Hammerstein Ballroom, there's people are also going to see, death match type stuff, and not everybody understands what that is,
Yeah. Oh, we have a special special guest, John.
I saw this pop up. I don't know if this is really Violent J or not. Maybe he's not happy with what Lavi was saying about the Juggalos.
Violent J, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, man. I just was trying to listen. I didn't know I was in the room, but I'm here.
It's great. So we were talking about the collaboration that's going on, and one of my suggestions, and you guys don't necessarily go for this, is that I think to really heat things up with JCW, you have to get Brett in the ring and really show him what the Juggalos are all about.
Listen, I study Brett. All right, that's what I'm doing here right now, studying Brett. You know what I'm saying? I study Brett's moves. I'm trying to pick his brain constantly, and I'm trying to learn everything he does. Because I consider him my equal, and I want to be better than Brett. You know what I mean? And I want my company to be better than GCW. So I was in here trying to spy on him. That's all. But you guys called me out.
Yeah, who sent him the link? Lavi, did you send him the link?
I think it went through the GCW corporate. Maybe you have to speak to your.
Well, I am
PR.
GCW corporate, so I'm gonna have to see if there's a leak in my office.
Don't
I don't
worry
like
about
that.
how I got the link, brother, but I got it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't like Lavi. Lavi was suggesting that he wanted to see, somebody from JCW get their hands on me, and I told him that's just not going to happen. Especially not on July 17th in Detroit, not on August 1st in Rutherford, New Jersey. So, all due respect to you, Violent J, but I got guys watching my back, so don't get any ideas. All right.
It's funny you say that, Brett, because the way I remember it, and the way all the fans can see it, is somebody did get their hands on you when you showed up at JCW's show, and you brung all your thugs and all your criminals you call wrestlers at GCW,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys showed up at our show, and I remember you tried to recruit Too Tough Tony
Mm-hmm.
Over the GCW, and he was the one that got his hands on you. And I
And what
remember you
happened to him?
screaming like a newborn baby woman until they attacked him from behind. But I
Yeah,
remember
but
he got
what?
his big meaty paws on you, and he's about to have his way with you until all that happened.
But he didn't. And what happened to
No,
him?
he didn't. No, he didn't,
Yeah.
because you brought about 7 or 8 different thugs with you, and that's the only way you move. I understand that, but
Well,
now
I'm no
be
idiot.
prepared
I'm
next
no
time.
idiot. You know that. I'm not going to show up in Juggalo territory, without backup. So, it's going to take. You're going to need like 10 or 11 two tough Tonys if you're going to want to actually, get your hands on me and finish the job. So, good luck with
Well, I
that.
was pretty shocked. I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty shocked to see the way you were running your mouth on that mic in the ring. Usually you're not an upfront public guy, but you certainly had no problem being just that at our show. And the way I remember it, there was about 1,800 juggalos that wanted to kill you in that building. You know what I mean? And you were still grabbing the mic proudly and running them down until you damn near caused a riot, which is pretty unlike you, because usually you're professional, more or less behind the scenes type of guy, but you didn't have any problem grabbing the mic and telling all the juggalos how you felt, which was pretty wild.
Oh, well, right. And I just want to say, I've said this. I actually said this on the GCW podcast last night. Actually, and I've told you this, Jay. I have a lot of respect for you. Growing up, I was a big fan of ICP, and I told you what Stranglemania meant in my life. And I'm a mark for you and ICP, but somewhere along the line here, I feel like I don't know if there's been if we've if there's been some miscommunication between us or whatever, but in my opinion, it was you that first showed the sign of disrespect to us. You came to our show at Harpo's in Detroit, and I didn't feel like you were treating us like equals that day. So
No, I wanted a fair competition. I wanted to prove ourselves. I want what you got, Brett. You know that.
yeah,
I want the
yeah,
respect you have in wrestling. I want the respect you have. I want to be. I want my promotion to be where your promotion is at. So I issued a
yeah.
friendly challenge, but it didn't stay friendly long. And obviously, you do see us as competition because you showed up at our show with a gang of thugs in tow. And where was the respect that night at JCW?
Well, I look at it like this. We're not equals, and with all due respect, in the music world, you're above me. In the wrestling world, you're below me, and I'm happy to lend a little advice to you once in a while, but sometimes I also have to stand on business, and I have to come in there and remind you and all the people in the face paint, where you guys lay on this totem pole. So it is what it is. Again, maybe you feel a certain way about it, but GCW is my company and I got to stand up for it. And, if that means reminding you guys what you are and where you are in that totem pole, I'm going to do it. And again, all that's, I don't mean to disrespect you, but it is what it is, in the wrestling world. My guys, you call them criminals, you call them thugs or whatever, but there's a reason why we're number one, So
That's true. But all that respect you allegedly have for us, there was none of it. And the whole world can see it on Lunacy next week when the episode comes out. They can see how little respect you actually have. They can see a new side of Brett Lauderdale when they watch
well,
that episode. They can see who you really are because you didn't have a problem showing it at our show. You know what I
well,
mean?
yeah, and you know what? In some ways, I'm sorry that happened because I do like to stay behind the curtain. But again, when I feel like my company's being attacked, at the end of the day, this is, I got 10 years in on this now. It's my livelihood. It's my family. So, if I have to come on the other side of the curtain and speak my mind, I'll do it. So, listen, let's just agree to disagree for now. We've got some time coming up. I'm going to see you July 17th in Detroit. We'll be in your turf. I think that's a good opportunity. If you have something to say to me, we don't need to do it on Lavi Margolin's podcast. We can do it face to face at the Majestic Theater. How about that?
We will, and it's called the Showcase Showdown. The violence is right, and that's why I'm really, really excited about the show on the 17th, because it's going to be not a war between us. It's going to be a showcase to show what both companies got. And if anybody wants to tune into that show, you'll see because there's going to be a GCW match and then a JCW match and a GCW match and a JCW match. And without us fighting each other, but just giving a presentation of both of our promotions, you know what I'm saying? Everybody can see who's really putting on the better show here, who's really putting on the better promotion, who's really got the better talent. You know what I mean? And that's exactly the type of platform we need to show the world who's better. Without the backstabbing, without the warring with each other, which we'll get to when we get to the 2-day war at the gathering. But at this
Yeah.
show on the 17th, that's what I'm looking forward to the most right now, because I want to show the world that when you put our company match for match against your company, it's glaringly obvious. It's glaringly obvious who's got more heart,
Mm.
whose wrestlers have more talent,
Mm.
and who puts on a better performance, because that was a mistake you made signing up to agree to that, Brett. You know, and I'm being respectful. This is your moment. You know, I was trying to spy on you, but this is your moment. And I'll tell you this: that was a mistake you made agreeing to that, because once you can clearly see, when this showcase happens, you can clearly see us against you, and you know, side by side, who's doing the better performance, who's running the better promotion. That's where you're gonna embarrass yourself, my friend.
All right, listen. I don't, I don't want to have to argue this all night. I want to document what you just said. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna play that for my guys, and we'll see you on the 17th at the Majestic, and we'll see what's up. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I don't have any problem giving you your props, brother. You know, before we quote unquote fell out, I used to swing off your nuts like a baboon. All right, I'll admit it. I've always been a GCW fan. I've always been a fan of what you do, and before, when I was touring constantly and I was unable to give JCW the type of time that I do now, you know, I used to just watch you in awe, brother. But I got the time now, and we're putting that type of energy into our promotion now, and that's where
Mm-hmm.
you got the problem, my friend, because agreeing to go side by side with us in front of everybody and run a show together wasn't a smart move, because it's gonna show all your flaws.
Well, we're gonna find out. I mean, I'm again. I love a good challenge. A lot of people have doubted GCW over the last 10 years, and a lot of those people that doubted us are gone now. So I hope that doesn't happen to you. I like rooting for the little guy, JCW. Like I said, big fan. But you
Well, it's
sometimes,
been 25 years. We've been the most hated band in the world, and we haven't gone anywhere yet. So I
yeah,
think we
and
don't have
that's
any
great,
problems.
and
I
that's
think we're
great,
etched in stone now, like a pyramid. We're stuck here forever, brother.
and and I don't even have a band, so you got me in that world. But we'll
Well, you got
see.
a band of thugs you call
I do.
GCW.
I do, and they're virtually undefeated. So I
Well,
feel
just
good
make
about
sure
my
they're all out of
chances.
jail that night. Make sure they're all out of jail.
Mm, I can't
And
promise that. I'll be honest. I can't promise that, but we'll do our best.
okay, well, if anybody is in jail, I'll help you bail them out. How about that? Because I want the
Thank
best
you
you got with no
for the
excuses.
for the sake of the show. We may have to do that, so I'll let you know.
All right, well, we'll see, brother.
Man,
Lavi,
I
yeah.
wasn't sure if I should. I kind of maybe my fault. Wasn't sure if I should let Violent J in or not. I saw him there and I was like, I don't know if I should.
Uh,
So it's really kind of my fault. I apologize. I
you
love
probably sent him the link in the
Violent J.
first place.
Well, maybe because he's my boy and he's been on my show, the Two Man Power Trip, before. We had an awesome convo. So Violent J is my boy, and ICP. I love ICP. So
Well,
partially maybe my fault, but
I'm
Lavi
I
is my
figured it would
boy,
be a little
you
bit
so
more.
guys. You know, I didn't mean to interrupt. You know, I keep my eye on Brett's movements. It's not too often, you know what I mean, that I get a chance to sit back and observe. You know what I mean? And that's what I like to do every chance I get. I like to hear what comes out of his mouth. I like to hear what comes out of his brain, you know, because he is a success. And he has proven his company as number one, you know. And I'm not afraid to admit that. I don't have a problem admitting that GCW is number one, you know. And that's glaringly obvious, you know. But things change. If there's one thing about life, the only guarantee in life is change. You know what I mean? And there's definitely a big change that's about to happen in professional wrestling. That's for sure.
So, Violent J, I just have one question. I know Brett is he's checking off the map in the U.S., all 50 states, and I know there's not a place that the Juggalo Army hasn't been. So, are you going to help unlock the Southeast for GCW, and also just to name a few places: Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas? Because we always know that the Juggalos come out to support, but maybe open up some doors for GCW as they take over the U.S. and then the world.
I'm not doing anything for GCW, but I'll tell you this, for JCW, we're going everywhere. I know Brett tours the world. We haven't done that. We haven't been to Japan. We haven't been to Europe. ICP's been everywhere because that's been our focus. But times will change. We've slowed down touring. You know what I mean? ICP doesn't tour the way we used to, which gives me the freedom now to step up JCW. And that's where it became a problem for Brett, because now I have the time he's always had, you know, and we just locked in more dates for September and for October, all the way up till Halloween. So we'll be coming out to the West Coast. We'll be coming down to Texas. We'll be all over the place. And it's like the floodgates have been open now. You know what I mean? And I promise you, we're coming thoroughly and we're coming strong. And it's gonna happen. It's gonna take some time. You can't just dismantle a company like GCW quick. You can't just overtake their spot. They've been there a long time, and they're not just sitting idle. They're still moving. They're moving faster and harder all the time. But that's okay, because there's one thing I like. It's a challenge. You know what I mean? It gets me inspired every time GCW breaks a new record or breaks new ground. It just inspires me more, because I know that I've got to catch up and I've got to surpass him. You know what I mean? And I've got an army of thugs with me as well. And this is something I enjoy doing. If there wasn't GCW and Brett Lauderdale, we'd probably be a lot lazier. It's like they say, Vince used to do better when he had competition. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel. I'm grateful for Brett Lauderdale. I'm grateful for GCW, because that's where we want to be. That's the spot we want, and it's motivation. You know what I mean? To see how good he's doing and how good they're doing. It's motivation, and it gives us the fuel in our tanks to be there. The only problem we got is when we knock them off their pedestal, who's next? You know what I mean? That's the only problem, because when they're sitting number one, we might get lazy. You know what I'm saying? But until we get to that spot, I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and I tell you what, we can maybe we can end by agreeing here. I actually agree with what you're saying, and if nothing else, at least hearing you say that you're gunning for us, so to speak. That does keep me on my toes, and I like that. Competition's good for everybody. GCW's always been at its best when there was somebody nipping at our heels, so to speak. So. I do like a good challenge. I do like good competition. You're not going to beat us, but you're welcome to try, and I appreciate the motivation. So,
Before
we
let me
can.
say this: we're not nipping at your heels. We're about to bite your entire legs off, my friend.
Well, that remains to be seen. But I welcome the challenge, and like I said, I enjoy some good competition. So let's do it.
I'm gonna let you guys get back to what you're doing. Sorry for the interruptions, my friend.
Hey, thank you, Val J. I appreciate it.
I hope
Come
to
by
get back on the
anytime.
show again soon, man. And Brett, I'll be seeing you on the 17th, my friend.
I'll see you in Detroit.
Love it. Val and Jay, come back anytime. I'll send you a link anytime you want to come back.
Yeah.
You let me know. All right.
What else,
Brett?
What else, Lavi? We have anything? Was there anything else we were going to talk about?
No, I think we're good. I think we can reflect. Well, how about we finish with this? The man driving the engine, the champion, Effy. Some reflection on his 6-7 months of the belt defending, not only in GCW but all over the world. What do you think? What do you think about it all, and how has it driven business?
Yeah, Effy's. I think the greatest the biggest achievement or accomplishment of Effy's reign so far has been the fact that he's kind of taken it everywhere he goes with him, and it's been representing it all over the world, all over the country. And the guy who is as busy as Effy is, that actually does count for something. He's definitely one of the most prolific indie wrestlers in the world. So that belt's got some mileage with it. Effy's title reign's been tough because tough. When I say tough, I mean we've had a lot of the plans that we had to be reshuffled due to circumstances out of our control. So there's been a lot of stops and starts in it, and we're still even to this day we're still waiting on some word on this person this person that, timelines, when can we activate this game plan and move forward on some of the ideas that we've had. So there's been a lot of kind of mini conquests for Effy, and just kind of trying to face the best competition and having the best matches. That's kind of been where the way that the Effy title reign has gone so far, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's just been a lot of waiting. It's been a waiting game. So but Effy is one of those faces of GCW. He's people people know him as a GCW guy, and I'm proud to have him as our champion. And he's professional. He's he's professional. He's a hard worker, and I don't ever have to worry about Effy. He's going to be there and he's going to do his job. So there's something to be said for that.
Nice. Let me turn over to John.
Brett, I do want to apologize. I thought that would be a little bit more fun with Violent J, but I thought that would be good to get him on, since Lavi was saying, he wanted you to get juice in the ring, whatever the hell he's talking about with you.
I know, crazy.
Sorry about that. But give us one last big push for everything Game Changer, everything GCW.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's the summer of GCW. We are headed for backyard wrestling this weekend, Hartford this weekend, off to Dallas for a big one, off to Coney Island for a big one, and then off to Japan, and then come back, and there's literally no days off. We will be back from Japan on the 31st, and then the following day is SummerSlam weekend. 3 days of show, well, 2 days, 2.5 days of shows, 2 days of GCW, and then there's a Jersey Championship Wrestling show on August the 3rd. So we'll be very busy. And then then off to the Gathering, and then back home to Atlantic City for homecoming. So it's one thing after another. The summer of GCW, very busy. And I don't know, I think that's kind of always been the way it is for GCW. It's always the summer of GCW. So I love the challenge. I love the grind. I love looking at the schedule and going, holy shit, how are we going to get through this? And just doing it, because we always do. Our crew is awesome. Our crew is built, differently than a lot of the others out there. That's my team looks at challenges and they get excited by them. And, I love that, because, we all kind of motivate each other. And my people take pride in being GCW and take pride in doing things that nobody else can do. So it's fun. It's fun going through this and kind of accomplishing all of this together, because what we're doing, I think is significant. We are doing things that nobody's done before. So it's just cool. It's just a fun time of the year, and that's what makes GCW GCW.
Yeah, just wanted to mention, thank you, Brett, for your 9th appearance. I would say record breaking, but you already broke the record. And Violent J.
Who's number 2?
We have a few that are around there, like
Kevin
Kleinrock, Brandon Thurston.
Oh yeah, Brandon too. Yeah.
Those are a couple that come to mind. A little foggy brained at the moment, but I usually do have the rankings in mind.
When's your next panel?
Oh yes, I'm not sure if they want to do it as an annual thing, but it was quite popular. Unfortunately, the hottest night of the year, but everyone showed up, and it was taken well, and a lot of aspiring pro wrestling professionals on the business side. So hopefully, there's a good talent pool. For
Who knew there
you.
were so many aspiring professionals that wanted to be involved in pro wrestling? What's wrong with them?
I think it's just sort of mainstreaming of it, right? Like certain things, certain generations, right? When the UFC first came out, like it was perceived as one thing, and now like people in college, like it's really not a different sport than tennis or whatever it may be to people. Just I follow this or I don't follow this. There's no perception of it that's different. I think pro wrestling is sort of gone that way too.
Yeah, I mean the good thing is it does seem like there's more awareness of what's going on in wrestling right now than there has been in years past. It's definitely, I think, the wrestling is definitely at its coolest point now since it was in the Attitude Era, probably. So, whether that how far that trickles down, we'll see it. It's wrestling's always so hard. The two things about wrestling is it's always hard to predict, even when you think you can predict it. And the other thing is everything in wrestling can change, in a span of hours. The entire landscape can change in the way the entire business works. Can work one way one day and be totally different the next. So, but yeah, hopefully, hopefully this success at the top, trickles down.
Absolutely. Where could everybody get those GCW tickets and just follow on social media?
Well, of course, follow us on the artist formerly known as Twitter. You can follow us at GC Wrestling _. Follow us on Instagram at Game Changer Wrestling. And then we do have a website. Did you know that?
Oh,
I just discovered it. It looks great.
Does it look good? We're still kind of working it out and figuring it out, but longlivegcw.com. So you can actually kind of get like all the information there, I think. Tickets and all that stuff. So I know it's a bold step here in the year 2025. As everybody's moving away from websites, we finally got one after everybody told us to for years. So we're really moving forward here. So check us out. Twitter's where is usually the first line of defense for updates. But Facebook, Game Changer Wrestling, and Instagram, they always follow. So that's where you get the latest and greatest news and information.
all right. Awesome. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate all the time tonight. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thanks, Brett. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, Brett. Have a great night.
You too.
Take care.
Bye. All right, Lobby, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you?
On X, Lavimark, LAVIEMARG. One thing that I didn't mention from that panel is a lot of interest in the LinkedIn group. Now, the business of the business, I realized as I was trying to help people in the panel to get on, you have to search business of the business group. That'll help you find it, but over 125 members now.
Nice. Look at that. Good job, Lavi. I love that. I'm in there as well, but I love that you're spearheading it. Great job. But thank you, everybody out there, for tuning in. See you right back here next week for a little business of the business. We'll see you next week, folks.